Hello, this is Name's a Goblin. Um, this is going to be a longer web show today. I've been asked by a lot of my friends through text, and through email, and through Facebook, why not have a comparison between Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh? So here it is. First off, we're going to go to Magic the Gathering. This is a Magic card. Basically, the premise of Magic is that you are a Planeswalker. In order to do spells, you cast those cards at other Planeswalkers. You can enlist other Planeswalkers to your aid in the form of Planeswalker cards. The options for tabletop, things like that, are limitless. In order to win, you have to reduce your opponent's life to 0, or give them 10 poison counters, or any other win con. There are a lot of win cons that you can do as far as Magic. My favorite being for my Amulet Bloom deck, just playing a Bloom card, or playing a Pact card and having your opponent lose because they can't pay. In order to play spells, you have to put land down. You have 5 different choices for land. If you're not counting non-basics, you have island, you have forest, you have plains, you have mountains, and you have swamps. 5 different colors, and they each have their own strengths and weaknesses. You also have artifacts, enchantments, tribal, sorceries, creatures, planeswalkers, and world. There are some others. I probably didn't get them all. You have a choice of almost 100 different sets that you could go through to make the deck that's perfect for you. My favorite deck, not necessarily my best, but my favorite, is the Slivers. Because 1, they're annoying. Many, they're almost unbeatable. If you have all of them, good luck. Slivers also have a pretty cool backstory with just being a hive mind pretty much that's based off of one brain. I kind of think that's interesting. Other notable tribal are goblins. A favorite of, and a shout out to my good friend Desu Super Chan, who plays goblins. She's not the best, but she tries really hard, and she likes yelling goblins. I don't know. We also have Eldrazi's, which are basically giant abominations based off the Cthulhu mythos from Edgar Lovecraft, I think his name is. We also have squirrels. I love the squirrels. Not too many people play those, but I know a couple guys who, if they had the money, they would play squirrels. Because they're just like them. It's for people who are very squirrely in nature. And they can relate to the cards. There's also many, many, many others. Next, we have Yu-Gi-Oh! This is a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. There are different archetypes, different subtypes, different regular types. The objective of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is to get your opponent's life points from 4,000, 8,000, or 12,000 to 0 in the least amount of turns as possible, or before your opponent gets yours down to 0. You have 3 different types of cards. You have magic cards, which are not to be confused with Magic the Gathering cards. They are pretty much all green with different effects that are basically around the same as sorceries in the Magic the Gathering to compare. Next, you have traps, which you cannot play the first turn, but act similar to a Magic the Gathering instant. And then you have monsters, the ones that beef up your deck and make your opponent cry in despair. Now, I'm going to go through the good and the bad of both, and I'm going to choose what I think is the better series. First off, we have Magic the Gathering. Good things. It is a very good tabletop-oriented game by itself. And what I mean by that is not only can you just play the card game, but you can also do D&D events, you can do other things like that using those cards as medium, which I think is really cool. I've played a couple D&D tabletop events with Magic. I played regular Magic. I've played EDH, which is similar to the regular Magic, except you have 100 single cards and one commander, and there are different rules for each different game. The best part about Magic, making your deck. Most people think it's actually playing, but making your deck is pretty darn cool, at least in my opinion. Another good thing is that Modern, Legacy, it changes from time to time. But it doesn't change too often. With Modern, there are a lot of different ways to win. There are over 100 deck combinations that people have used to win a tournament one way or another. And that's what I like about it. Just the diverse nature of Magic the Gathering allows you to pretty much make a deck that's custom suited to your personality and your taste in cards. Now we compare that with Yu-Gi-Oh! With Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a very fast-paced game. Some of the good things are the cards are very cheap, so making your ideal deck doesn't cost that much. Instead of costing $800 to $1,000 for an ideal Magic Modern deck, you only have to spend $300 or $400 for a really good tournament-winning deck for Yu-Gi-Oh! Also, with Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a little bit simpler. The effects are a lot more read out and a lot more detailed. Bad things about both. With Magic, people can get very salty very quickly. If you have one of those players that just wants to win and they don't win, you could either end up with a black eye or a brand new deck. That could be a good or a bad thing. But I've ended up with both. He punched me in the face and then he threw his cards at me. In his defense, though, I think that having a $3,000 deck that got beat by a $30 deck kinda isn't... I would probably act the same in his shoes. He ended up getting his cards back. I felt really guilty about it. I ended up handing him his cards back after he left. And we've been friends ever since, somewhat. I don't much like the guy, but he can handle it. He's a big boy now. Another bad thing with Magic is that, yeah, it's incredibly expensive to get a really good tournament-winning deck. I spent around $75 to get my Amulet Bloom deck, but that was already because I had everything as it was. I only had to spend for the big money cards. Being 2 Azusas, which is 60, and a Tendo Ice Bridge, which is 10. I had pretty much everything already, and I got really, really lucky. Bad sides for Yu-Gi-Oh! There is no other format other than standard. You can use old cards, but there is one set ban list, and only the standard cards actually place good in tournaments. For example, you go with a Legacy Blue Eyes deck. You pimp it out. 3 Blue Eyes from the original set. You go complete starter deck on their ass. You get beat by turn 2. Now, you compare that with Magic. You go Legacy. You pay $500, you get a pretty good deck. Chances are, you're gonna last somewhere, somehow. Finally, another thing that's really bad about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that only the latest archetypes really win. You can't go in with a Gimmick Puppet deck or Dragon Ruler deck, even though they don't use Dragon Rulers anymore because they've banned them so many times it's become kicking a dead horse. The biggest bad thing for Yu-Gi-Oh! Is there is no different different play style where you can play with older sets. They're changing that soon, I heard. But usually if you want to win a tournament, you have to pay $400 and you have to get the latest and greatest deck combination. There really isn't any originality. At least with Magic, you could take stuff out of other people's deck combos, add in your own that you think is pretty cool, and you would last somewhere. With Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's you either choose these 4 or 5 different deck combinations, you follow them to the letter, or you really aren't going to win at all. I'm old style. I play Gimmick Puppets, and I've gotten lucky. I've used Gimmick Puppets enough where I know what I'm going to draw, I know how I'm going to draw, and I know how I'm going to play. And that's the only reason why I do as well as I do, and even that is not great. I probably win. I've only won one major tournament with Gimmick Puppets in today's market, and that's not even a major tournament. It's a pretty much back street local card game tournament. I love Gimmick Puppets. I will stick with my Gimmick Puppets. I do not expect to win, and I do not care. But I do know if you want to win, you kind of have to use different. You kind of have to use different combos. You have to use different deck styles that are the newest and the latest and the greatest. This is Names a Goblin. If you disagree with my decision, by the way, my decision, I think Magic the Gathering is honestly the better card game. It's older. It's been here since I think the 80s or the 70s, or no, I think it's in the 1990s. But that doesn't really matter. I think it has more potential out of game. You could do tabletops, and I think the fact that you can't use an older deck to win any major tournaments in Yu-Gi-Oh, the fact that the only standard decks prevail, is the biggest reason why I think Magic the Gathering is honestly the better card game. Now, if you disagree with my decision, I would like to hear you in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I would be really highly appreciative of that. Otherwise, I wish you a good night. I am going through a big ice storm, so I'm hoping that the tree doesn't come down on our house. I thank you very much for watching.